You're listening to the A Bit From Within podcast with Felicia Marty. And we were talking about like how easy it is to be filled with resentment when you are going through a hard time, because it is taking away from everything you could be doing, from everything you want to be doing, everything you want to be thinking about or submerging yourself in or dedicating yourself to, or even like the best parts of yourself. Like sometimes when you're going through really horrible situations, like it can be the thief of joy, and that is not your fault. Like it is what it is. Hi everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for a new episode of the A Bit From Within podcast. I'm Felicia. For those of you who don't know me, I am a gentle yoga teacher. I also teach meditation, all virtually, and I also run a wedding photography and videography business in the Denver, Colorado area. And this week I am coming to you, I'm actually recording this on a Tuesday, the same day I'm going to release this. I wanted to record yesterday, but, things have been very chaotic in my life lately. And honestly, I don't even know if chaotic is the best word. I feel like busy is the right word. And sometimes I feel a little bit ashamed to use the word busy, because I remember when I was teaching yoga, I had one of my students, I guess what I should say is, I remember when I was teaching yoga in person, prior to 2020, I had a student who came up to me and was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I honestly, there are certain seasons in my life being in the wedding business where things are just very busy. And he had asked me and I kind of said busy, and he was like, yeah. Like he kind of made it seem like that was just like an inauthentic answer. And ever since then, I've had this slight like embarrassment around saying I'm busy. But the truth is, like, when you've got a lot going on, it's hard to really slow down enough to be like, yeah, I'm doing good or I'm doing bad. In fact, I don't feel either of those things. Like, I would say if I had to pick as a side to lean towards, I'd say I'm doing pretty well in a lot of ways, although I also feel like that's because I'm really actively trying to work on my mental health and staying grounded and really processing through everything I'm going through. And there's plenty of stuff that's happening on probably the bad side of things too. We're still trying to figure out a lot of the stuff that Dave is going through, how much of it is, anxiety, how much of it might be an actual physical thing going on with him. And I'm not going to spend as much time talking about that today because I feel like I spent a lot of the last couple episodes just sharing and processing that. And I don't want to do that as much today, and I don't feel the need to do that as much today. I feel like there's other things that my heart just wants to share with all of you. So all of that was just to say that, like, I think that this season of my life is really about just doing my best to stay grounded and present and to accomplish what needs to be accomplished every single day. And there are certain times in my life where I function like this, and it's probably as more of a means to cope or to avoid or to distract. But right now I actually think that it's like just a really good approach for getting through everything I've got going on right now, because we've got weddings every weekend. We've had, for the past 3 weeks, we've had at least 3 weddings each week. So there's lots to catch up on. The leaves are finally starting to change colors in Colorado, so we've got tons of fall sessions booked. And usually it's this time of year where I feel like I'm starting to lose my mind a little bit. I think I touched on that a couple episodes ago too. I have this kind of, the fall is hard because everybody wants a fall session, and sometimes it's hard for people to understand that there are already people who have reserved their spot for a fall session, and unfortunately, like, there's not always spots available. But this year, like, I don't have any openings until November, and I feel kind of very confident saying that. I just actually saw another photographer who I follow that posted like, I have no sessions available until 2022. And she's like, it's super hard for me to say that because I hate saying no to people, but I've got to protect what I've got on my plate. And I'm feeling that a little bit this year too. It's just, there is so much of me that does feel really bad when I have people that are like, hey, I need a fall engagement session, or I'd want to book my wedding with you, but I have to get in this fall for engagement session. It's like, no, you're gonna have to find somebody else then, because I'm not a good fit for you because we don't have anything. And as hard as that is, it also, there's this other part of me that feels so excited to be able to own that and say it and just kind of let it fall off my shoulders a little bit too. Because setting boundaries is really hard, and I just am feeling proud of myself for being able to honor the things that are going on in my life and the things that fill up my schedule, because I am genuinely already at the brim. So if I were to squeeze in anything else, it would really be to my own detriment, and I don't want that. And I know that I wouldn't want that for you either. I would be saying actively, you need to take things off your plate. And I think that this whole conversation around boundaries is extra good to think about this time of year, because before you know it, we're going to be in the thick of fall and holidays and everything. And I think sometimes that can kind of sneak up on us and kind of catch us off guard because life is so busy and we're not just always in like holiday mode. But as we move into fall and into winter, especially here in the northern hemisphere where we're actually moving in towards darkness, these seasons are for us to reflect, for us to be able to go inward, to be able to draw within so that we can figure out what we want to come when the spring comes. And of course, we're right on the edge of this, right? Like tomorrow is the autumn equinox. We're actually transitioning into fall. And I think sometimes with all of the holidays and wanting to get in this festival or see these lights or do things, and I think especially this year when so much was maybe missed or put on hold last year, there could be extra pressure to do things and see people and spend time. And if you don't take a moment at the beginning of that to figure out what your limitations are, what your boundaries are, how you feel comfortable operating, even if you kind of have, especially with COVID right now, it's like, okay, ideally this would be what makes me feel most comfortable, or this would be ideal if things are like X, like if numbers are like this. And then you can kind of create different tiers, okay? And then if this happens, then this is where my safety level goes. And if this happens, then this is, you can kind of create different levels. And it's something that I've kind of been really wanting to think about. In fact, even just present giving. My mom and I were talking about this earlier, and we were kind of joking, but also like serious, and being like, maybe we do no presents this year. And, that might sound really sad. I'm sure there's some of you out there who are like, oh, like you have to do presents. And maybe we would do like a gift exchange. But sometimes I feel like Christmas can be so overwhelming. And we've had some amazing Christmases in the past couple of years where it's just been so much, and trying to figure it out and making it really special and all this stuff. And at least, and granted, I know I'm only at the beginning of fall thinking of this, but I'm really thinking like the best Christmas present that I could give or get would be permission to not have to get anybody else anything. I mean, obviously, like I'm sure Dave and I would, or there's some friends and stuff, but it's like, at least with the family, like if there was just kind of this unspoken, like relief that like, it just doesn't have to be so high stakes. It doesn't have to be so expensive. It could just be small, thoughtful things that are just more from the heart. I mean, I think that's how it is anyway. Like I feel like I've never given a gift to somebody in my family that I wasn't trying to intentionally make their life better or give it from my heart. But do you know what I mean? It's just something where like the stakes are a little bit less. The energy going into gathering that gift, picking it out, wrapping it, delivering it, that takes a lot of bandwidth. And I just don't know that I have that to give. And I really worry that, like, if I feel how I feel now closer to Christmas, that when I would be doing that, it would just be like spinning my wheels a little bit. And that probably speaks to a little bit of, there are parts of me that just feel a little bit drained right now and a little bit empty. And I think that's okay. That's kind of where I'm at right now, is like just kind of this level of acceptance that, like, where I'm at is where I'm at. I'm not falling apart because of it. I'm not judging myself because of it. I'm really trying to even stay out of a place of judgment around, like, maybe I'm not totally 100% my best self right now. But I also know that I am 100% doing the best that I can. And, maybe there's a difference, right? And that's also okay. So, anyway, I guess all of that is just a little bit of where I'm at right now, things that are on my mind. Let's talk a little bit about last night's full moon, this full moon cycle, the ending of Virgo season, moving into Libra season, this fall equinox, the upcoming Mercury retrograde. Let's talk a little bit about the astrology that's happening right now. There's a lot going on. We just had this beautiful full moon last night. And for those of you in the Patreon, I was able to, just under the wire, sneak out this, our latest monthly full moon guide. And those of you who are not listening to this that are connected to the Patreon, that's totally okay. If you go to my website, abitfromwithin.com, you can search in the guide section for the monthly full moon guide, and you can actually download it for free. And the monthly full moon guide is something I do each month during the full moon, and I actually also do one for the new moon. We'll just talk a little bit about the themes of where the signs are. I usually include a ritual, just some things to think about, just to inspire self-care, to help you think about things in a different way. It's one of the reasons I love using astrology, is just to help you consider perspective that you may not have before. And so last night we had a full moon in Pisces, opposite Sun in Virgo. And we're at our final kind of closing window of Virgo right now. Tomorrow is when the Sun moves into Libra and the fall equinox begins. And so here we are, this kind of full moon at the very closing of this summer season ending. And what a beautiful opportunity to just let go. I think I was just feeling this all weekend long, was just this new moon. I had really been doing some like deep intention setting around creating a little bit more security and stability in my life. And so when it came to this full moon, I was kind of like, okay, like this is the culmination. Like, did I really receive what I expected to? And in some ways, yes. And then in other ways, no. And I feel like there's plenty to surrender right now. And what came up for me, actually, so as a full moon ritual, I was actually able to get together with a couple of friends last night. And I haven't actually, it's been a very, very long time since I was able to share community space and ritual with friends. And I thought this was such a beautiful way to kind of also not only spend the full moon, but also start to move into Libra season, because Libra is all about community and partnership and connection and relationship. And so to actually be able to spend this full moon in partnership with other people and connection felt very, very amazing. And I think it was very evident from just being with other people that there is such a heaviness happening right now. It feels like everyone is not only fighting a battle that you know nothing about, but that we're all kind of like in the thick of the storm too, like at our like peak of exhaustion, trying to paddle our boats, rain and hail are pouring down. And we're just doing everything we can to keep going. And there's like, it's like almost like we're on the cusp of, how do I handle this? And I think that's where this opportunity for committing to a mindset comes in. Because there are times in your life when you're just spiraling, right? Like you're just in it, you're spiraling, you feel like you have no control. Maybe it even feels good to have no control because it kind of gives you permission to behave any way you want and not have to be accountable. And I say that with love. Like I think when we're in a place where that's our choice, it's usually because we're feeling a lot of fear. But I do think it's so important for each of us to remember that we are more powerful and more strong than we ever give ourselves credit for. So it is okay to sit down, and maybe it's on a full moon, maybe it's just on a Tuesday, maybe it's the first day of the month, maybe it's whenever you decide, I'm ready to sit down, I'm ready to assess, I'm ready to refocus, and I'm ready to make a conscious choice of how I want to move forward. Actually, this kind of even reminds me a little bit of Ted Lasso. If you guys haven't seen Ted Lasso, then you should absolutely try to find a way to watch it. It's so good. But, you know, there's something about the character Ted Lasso where it's just like he's just made a decision on how he's going to move through the world. And you can see that in every choice that he makes, every interaction that he has. And I actually kind of like that. As I was watching, I found it kind of inspiring personally. So anyway, all of that, you can tell there's a lot that I've been thinking about on this subject. So I'll come back to all of that. But wrapping up, we had this beautiful, amazing full moon last night. And this full moon was in Pisces. And I've always said that the Pisces Virgo axis is a little bit difficult to wrap your brain around, like how they connect, how they work together. Because you have Virgo, this right in the center of the pack of the zodiac. So the sixth sign. It is Earth. It is very hardworking. It is analytical. It is very diligent. It is service. It is health. You know, it is doing. And then you have, or at least figuring out, right? Figuring out and doing it. Then you have Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac. And the word that always comes up for me when I think of Pisces is like ethereal, like next level, like dreamlike ascension. It's a water sign. It is very spiritual, so full of compassion. Just like, I always just think of like the most wise old woman with like these foggy, glassy eyes. It's just here and somewhere else, like one foot on earth, but like also probably mostly in heaven. It's hard to figure out that access. And so with this full moon, the way that I was thinking about it is kind of like, especially as we're on this doorstep to this equinox, is how can we figure out the balance between what do I need to have a little bit more faith in? What do I need to kind of think about in a different way? Where do I need to let my dreams expand? Or if you're there in this other kind of place, you're maybe a little too dreamy, you've got these big ideas and you're having trouble actually being grounded. Where do I need to put some concentration into? Where do I need to land my feet? How can I analyze this situation in a way that I can show up more fully? And that's one thing I love about full moons is you can kind of figure out and assess like, okay, where am I really at? Especially in connection to your own intention setting, this lunar cycle, or just where you're at in your life. And then you can kind of start to let go of the areas of your life that are holding you stuck in those areas. It's a big thing, isn't it? Just thinking about it made me feel like this. So, of course, even though the full moon was yesterday, this theme is going to continue for a little while. And we're going to be moving into this autumn equinox tomorrow, this day when the daylight is just as long as the night. And I was thinking about this in terms of balance, and in terms of when things are balanced, it's like you actually have more security. The level of the game is a little bit easier. It's almost like if you were walking across stones to cross a river, and each of those stones was wobbly, that would be harder to navigate. But if each of those stones was totally solid and set and steady, it'd be easier. And I was thinking, maybe this season that we're going into is this gift that we think we're off balance, and maybe in some ways we are, but we actually have this ability to start to move into balance and to match balance. And if we can find that, how much easier will that make all of the preparation for what we're about to go into? And this is the first year I've really seen this as a gift. And it goes back to all of the things I was saying at the beginning of this episode around it's okay to say no. It's okay to carve out more time for yourself. It's okay to make space. It's okay to change your plans. It's okay to just be starting to even kind of trim things down a little bit to prepare for you to go into this season of going inward. And we're talking about like the long game, right? Like this isn't something you need to rush and make all of these changes tomorrow, right? No, it's like we have the next, 12 or so weeks, this entire fall season to move into the winter season and decide how we do this. And each day it gets a little bit darker outside. And we can kind of move and evolve with this and choose our way into this next season. And so that kind of brings me into the heart of this episode today, like all of this, because I've just been thinking about this word seasons. And, I was connecting with a friend who is going through a very difficult time right now. And we were talking about like how easy it is to be filled with resentment when you are going through a hard time, because it is taking away from everything you could be doing, from everything you want to be doing, everything you want to be thinking about or submerging yourself in or dedicating yourself to, or even like the best parts of yourself. Like sometimes when you're going through really horrible situations, like it can be the thief of joy, and that is not your fault. Like it is what it is. And so we're kind of talking about this idea of all of this resentment and what we wish we could be doing. And this idea of like, oh, wouldn't it just be so nice to be able to just, be free, be liberated, be able to go out on top of a mountain and kind of throw your hands up in the air and just have all of this like lifted off your shoulders and be running around kind of working on the new stuff, the stuff that feels good. And I couldn't help but think how that idea was kind of in contrast to the season that we're moving into. And that's not to say that wonderful things can't happen in the fall, or new life can't be given in the fall or the winter. Obviously we know babies are still born, promotions happen, engagements happen, like happy things that happen in people's life happen all year round. But when we're kind of looking at seasons of life, sometimes when you're in the thick of it and you're kind of having to go inward, or you're having to deal with the darkness, we can look to nature and say, yeah, that's a season of life. That's totally normal. In fact, this is kind of one of the conversations that I've been having a lot with Dave lately, just around at least anxiety and certain body sensations, is this idea of like, yep, I'm a human living in a body. I'm going to have sensations. I'm going to have little pains that come. I'm going to have aches. I'm going to have all kinds of things that a body can experience. And instead of immediately going to the place of like, oh my gosh, I'm sick, something's wrong, this is bad, sometimes it's okay to say, all right, I'm in a body. I'm in a body that has sensations. I'm not going to call that good or bad. I'm just going to say it is what it is. It's normal. It is. I am in a body living the life of a person in a body. And that's kind of like something we can take this philosophy to other areas of our life. We can say, I'm going through the hardest time of my life right now, or I'm going through this chapter that is defined by stress or conflict or things I can't control, or maybe it feels like an enemy, whether that's a physical person or a mental illness or a physical illness or somebody you can't control. I mean, you name it. But sometimes when we're going through that, we just have to say, I'm not going to define this as good or bad. I'm just going to acknowledge it for the season that I'm in. I'm going to know that this too shall pass, that I'm going to get through this, and that you're going to be compassionate with yourself while you go through it. And I think that's probably one of the hardest parts. It's so hard to take care of yourself while you're really moving through it. Whether that's because somebody's pulling your attention elsewhere or because you're so spiraled that you don't really know how to best take care of yourself because it's confusing. So the thing that has just been the biggest thing for me right now is, how do I keep coming back to myself? How do I connect to the deepest part of my core being? And maybe I don't stay in that place for very long. Maybe I feel it for like 5 minutes. It's like yesterday I woke up and I had a back-to-back weddings this weekend, which are always pretty taxing. And I'm really feeling it in my back right now. But I woke up yesterday and my mom had left me some quiche in the fridge when she came over to see my baby, my puppy. And so I was like really looking forward to this quiche. Ate this delicious breakfast, kind of felt really good, came upstairs, meditated for a while, and then kind of dived right into this mountain of work that I needed to tackle. And probably a couple hours later, I was feeling pretty good until I reached this point where, for whatever reason, I just felt this anxiety like churning in my stomach, just like out of nowhere. Just, such big anxiety that I almost felt nauseous. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to sit here and spiral into this. I know I need to just go switch my mindset. It was very hard to leave the computer because I feel like I have so much to do right now. But I'm also in this place where I'm very aware that how I feel about the things that need to get done and the way that I would feel most comfortable just staying focused on it is actually in major contrast to what's actually going to help support me and keep me alive through this time. So I gathered up Dave and we went on a little Whole Foods run, just grab a coconut water, a little bit of a late lunch, grab some things we need for the week because grocery shopping has been low on the priority list lately. And that was able to help me kind of shift and reset. And I was able to come back to myself a little bit. And then when I got home, even though I only had an hour left to work before I had to go move on to other things, I actually got a ton done. Probably more than I if I would have stayed there kind of spinning my wheels kind of in that place of anxiety. So all of that story is just to say, like, if I can come back to myself, if I can figure out how to really come back to myself and reset and kind of navigate through it, I'm not always going to be connected. But when I am, it's going to help me come back again and come back again. And that's what we're trying to do here. So for you, we all have to figure out what that looks like for us. Right now, that for me, that is sitting in my closet exactly where I'm recording and breathing. Sometimes I put on my yoga playlists. I've got a bunch of them. I love music. Sometimes that's I have this beautiful onyx. It's like this huge sphere it's a striped onyx that I got it in Pagosa Springs like 4 years ago. And it's so grounding. Sometimes I'll just take it and I'll sit in the closet with it. And I'm just like, try to calm down. Sometimes in my life, like getting grounded or connecting back to myself has looked like going on a walk. Sometimes it's calling up my mom or a friend. Sometimes it is going to the pool, although that won't be for this season ahead. Sometimes, I mean, it could be anything where you just feel like you get plugged back into yourself. We all need that. And it's really hard to remember to find that, right? Especially when the pace of our world right now is just so fast and so much and so draining. Do you guys feel that too? It's just like, it's so draining sometimes. So I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I think the final thing that I just wanted to share, this is kind of in lieu of a card reading, or it's a kind of a card reading and extension. Last night at the end of our friend get together for this full moon, we all drew a card. And this was from my Wild Offerings deck, the Tasha Silver deck. And I got this card that I've never pulled before. It was this, it's actually beautiful. It's like purple, and then it has like these pink and light pink swirls all around it, and then little daisies drawn on it. And it says, doubt. Offering all to the divine doesn't mean negativity never arises. But you can say, free me from this prison of doubt. I cast this burden to you. Show me your will and restore me to faith and confidence. And I feel like that is such a beautiful and amazing card. And it kind of speaks to everything I've just been dealing with or thinking about lately. You know, like, we're going to go through the trenches sometimes. The negativity will arise in our lives, whether it's something that we're instigating or it's something that's coming at us or something that's happening around us. But, you know, like, I think that's where having faith and having a spiritual practice comes in. It's just that ability to kind of let it go. And that's where it's all so beautiful, because we're right here at this full moon this time where we can let go. And so I guess this is my encouragement for myself, and of course for anybody else who can feel this and hear this right now. Like, it's okay to let it go. If there's something going on that you're doing your best and there's stuff happening that you can't control, like, just let it go. You don't have to carry it around. It can be true and it can be happening, and you don't have to carry the burden of it. Or maybe you have to carry part of it, but you don't have to carry all of it. So let's leave it there today. That's where I'm at. I don't know. I do feel moderately grounded right now. I definitely don't feel quite as flighty as I've felt the past couple episodes that I've recorded. I just want to say thank you, all of you who tune in each week and spend a little time with me. Of course, let me know your thoughts, what resonates with you, what connected to that bit from within you, those little pieces where you're like, yeah, I get that. Those things, and you guys remind me of those, they always mean so much to me. And if you want more of this, or if you want to catch the Autumn Equinox yoga class that I'm about to put out this week, you can join me on Patreon, patreon.com/abitfromwithin. And also, if you're wanting to have a little bit of that live feel, this Sunday will be the September live Connect and yoga class. So it's a 90 minutes where we kind of all connect with each other on a topic at the beginning and then do a yoga practice. And it's really quite magical. Like, I would highly recommend checking it out. So definitely you can connect through Patreon too. Thank you again for joining me this week, and I can't wait to talk to you next time.